Welcome back, focused learners, to another edition of our Explainer series. Today we're unpacking a truly astonishing piece of real-life forensic history. We're going to look at a true crime mystery that literally sat frozen in time for 34 years. It's this incredible story where a single microscopic thread, left in the dark, patiently waited for a future that hadn't even been invented yet. If you're fascinated by how science meticulously dismantles the impossible, well, you are absolutely in the right place.
Let's dive right into this dark reality with a thought that really sets the tone. For 34 years, a predator walked the streets, believing the past was completely buried. Just think about the heavy atmosphere of that delusion for a second. For over 3 decades, this individual walked around a quiet town, completely convinced that the rain had washed away his identity, and time had just, eroded his mistakes. It's a chilling thought, and as we're gonna see, it was a deeply flawed one.
Now, before we get into the exact mechanics of how this ghost was finally caught, just a really quick note. While this explainer is inspired by a very real, high-stakes forensic breakthrough, the names and identifying details have been changed for privacy. But the tragedy itself, that is very real, and it definitely demands our focus and respect as we break down the facts today.
Okay, let's start with Section 1, The Silent Night, 1992. So, back in November 1992, Blackwood, Ohio was the kind of innocent, trusting suburban town where neighbors literally left their back doors unlocked, right? Kids played out in the woods until dusk. But that quiet illusion changed absolutely abruptly on a random Tuesday evening. 22-year-old university student Elena Vance packed up her things and left the campus library at 8:15 p.m. She walked a super familiar, well-lit path back to her apartment, a route she had likely taken dozens of times, but she never arrived. The very next morning, her jacket was found by a secluded embankment near a local creek, and this completely plunged the quiet community into fear.
When investigators actually combed that secluded creek embankment, they found a crime scene that was stripped of almost all obvious answers. There were no witnesses, no cameras. The absolute only physical clue recovered was a tiny piece of blue nylon fiber caught on Elena's watch strap. And it was a material that didn't match anything she was wearing. That was it, guys. The absolute only clue they had.
Which brings us to Section 2, A Wall of Silence.
As you can imagine, the original detectives faced an immediate, towering dead end. I mean, they threw everything at this. They deployed tracking dogs, organized massive volunteer searches, checked endless alibis, and filled chalkboards with all these meticulous timelines. But they hit a massive technological brick wall. You see, in 1992, forensic science could take that little blue fiber and basically confirm that it was a blue nylon fiber, and nothing more. But today, modern forensics completely changes the game. We now know that if someone leaves a fiber, they are highly likely leaving skin cells adhering to it, trace amounts of DNA that are completely invisible to the human eye.
But back then, decades passed. The original detectives retired and the case went completely cold. Yet, perfectly preserved in a sealed glass vial in some forgotten evidence locker, that single piece of blue nylon patiently waited. The whole world outside evolved, The internet was born, the human genome was fully mapped, and by the mid-2020s, the advent of modern genetic databases finally gave investigators the exact key they needed to reopen this case.
Let's look at how they did it in Section 3, Echoes in the Code.
So 3 decades later, a dedicated cold case unit decides to revisit that locker in Blackwood, and they utilize a genuinely revolutionary tool, investigative genetic genealogy. Now, instead of just running the DNA through a police database and crossing their fingers hoping the killer had been arrested before, they did something brilliant. They took the invisible DNA extracted from the skin cells on that tiny fiber and uploaded the profile into public genealogical databases. They weren't looking for a direct match at all. They were looking for the suspect's relatives. This single move completely turned an unusable trace of skin cells into an incredibly loud voice from the past.
The methodology they used here is honestly mind-blowing. It's like a giant puzzle. First, analysts identify a third cousin living in Indiana. Next, they locate a great aunt down in Kentucky. Piece by piece, they painstakingly map out this massive, sprawling family tree, tracing lineages backward and forward until all the branches finally converge on one specific family living right there in Ohio in the 1990s. From there, they narrow that family down to 2 specific brothers. And since one was confirmed to be out of the country in 1992, well, that left only one remaining option.
Section 4, The Shadow Exposed.
That remaining brother was a man named Arthur Cole. He was just an ordinary accountant with absolutely no criminal record. What's truly terrifying here is that in 1992, he lived just 3 miles from the university campus, yet he had never, not even once, been considered a suspect. He had blended seamlessly into society for over 30 years, which really begs the question, how do you prove a 34-year-old ghost is guilty? Because science doesn't rely on suspicion, and it certainly doesn't care about proximity. Science demands absolute certainty. Investigators knew they couldn't just bring him in for questioning. That would obviously tip him off. So they needed undeniable proof.
To get that proof, they set a trap. Under highly discreet surveillance, they watched Arthur Cole and just waited for the perfect moment. Finally, on a rainy Thursday afternoon, Cole was finishing his lunch at a local park. He tossed a plastic coffee cup into a public waste bin and walked away. Moments later, an investigator wearing forensic gloves retrieved that exact cup. Rushed straight to the state lab, they finally had the fresh biological comparison sample they so urgently needed.
And those lab results, they yielded a staggering certainty, 1 in several billion. To put that into perspective, it's pretty much a mathematical lock. The DNA, biological material left on the rim of that fresh coffee cup perfectly matched the invisible skin cells found on that 34-year-old nylon fiber. The statistical certainty of this match leaves absolutely zero room for doubt. The shadow finally had a face.
Section 5. Justice After Decades. In the courtroom, Arthur Cole's 3 decades of denial completely collapsed under the sheer weight of this genetic evidence, finally leading to his arrest and conviction.
So let's leave off with this incredibly powerful thought. Time moves forward, but evidence never forgets. This entire breakthrough shows us the inescapable nature of modern forensics. It really doesn't matter how deep a secret is buried anymore. It kind of makes you wonder, right? In an era where our microscopic DNA footprint is absolutely everywhere, what other ghosts are about to be pulled into the light? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll see you next time as we decode another fascinating topic.